So these are the 2021 ESC guidelines on CVD prevention, which includes primary as well as secondary. We'll see first, just for the medical officer friends, like what are the classes of indication. Class 1 is it is recommended without any doubt. Class 2 is it is like plus or minus. 2A is where the evidence is more in favor of recommendation. 2B is it may be considered in select cases, and class 3 is where it is not recommended. Okay, so just a quick revision. Coming to the prevention of CVDs, I'll just rush through because we have a lot of things to cover. If you have any doubts, please stop me wherever. The latest concept is the prevention for all, where we include apparently healthy people. We estimate the 10-year CVD risk as well as a lifetime CVD risk. We'll come across the various score calculators which are available online as well as the ESC app. For patients with established CVD, we estimate the residual CVD risk, and in patients with specific comorbidities like diabetes or CKD or hypercholesterolemia or familial hypercholesterolemia, we have specific risk categories. So we estimate the CVD risk, then we have an informed discussion with the patient one-to-one on based on again various scores. Certain risk factor modifications may lead to reduction in the CVD risk. So there are calculators for that as well, as to 1 millimole per liter reduction of LDL will lead to so and so percentage reduction in CVD risk, and like smoking cessation for 1 year will lead to such reduction in risk. So there are all these risk calculators, so that can help us talk to the patient and have an informed discussion with the patient. Then we'll have a personalized treatment decisions, and the interventions are basically at the individual level as well as the population level. Just going through the new recommendations in 2021, in apparently healthy people less than 70 years of age without established ASCVD, diabetes, CKD or other established risk factors, estimation of 10 years of fatal and non-fatal CVD risk with a score 2 is recommended. ESC has come up with score 2, which is systemic coronary artery coronary risk evaluations algorithm, so SCORE 2. And in patients with more than 70 years, it is score 2 OP, that is older population. And in patients with established ASCVD and diabetes or moderate to severe CKD or genetic disorders, they are already considered at high or very high risk. So again, a stepwise approach is recommended, and like the score 2 for people less than 50 years of age, score 2 of more than 7.5, score 2 of more than 10 for 50 to 69, and score 2 OP, that is for elder people, more than 15% is considered very high risk, the second point here. So after that, we need to have an informed discussion about the CVD risk. Class 2A, I think we'll just see it later when we come. Yeah, so again, recommended to reduce the sedentary time and engage in at least light activity. Will come in the details of physical activity when we go to it. Again, a Mediterranean or a similar diet with a lower CVD risk. Restrict alcohol consumption to 100 grams per week, not applicable in Gujarat. To eat fish probably and at least once a week, or restrict processed meat. Mental disorders have been given class 1 indication that certain disorders like depression and all, they should be thoroughly evaluated and treated accordingly. Smoking cessation. Now in patients with established ASCVD risk, lipid lowering treatment with an ultimate LDL cholesterol goal of less than 55 or a 50% reduction in LDL cholesterol versus baseline is recommended. This is for patients with established ASCVD risk, with an established ASCVD. For secondary prevention, the same thing, that is for secondary prevention. If the patient is not able to achieve that LDL cholesterol goal on maximum tolerated statin therapy, plus or minus an ezetimibe, a combination therapy with PCSK9 inhibitor again is class 1 indication. Now patients with diabetes who are at very high risk, that is diabetes with established ASCVD or any target organ damage, for the same patients as well, intensive lipid lowering therapy is recommended, the same goals. And patients with diabetes who are more than 40 years of age are at high risk. So irrespective of existence of ASCVD or target organ damage, the lipid goal is either 50% reduction from baseline or 70 milligrams per deciliter of LDL. So for hypertension, recommended as the first objective treatment is BP less than 140/90 in all patients, and then subsequent BP targets are tailored according to age and the other comorbidities. If the patient is frail, we don't lower it down further. In treated patients who are 18 to 69, that is less than 70, it is recommended that the SBP should be ultimately lowered to a target of 120 to 130 in most patients. Patients more than 70 years, we can generally be targeted to less than 140, but not lesser than 130. And diastolic BP in all patients is recommended to be less than 80 millimeters of mercury. Diabetes with ASCVD, for the anti-diabetic medications, GLP-1 receptor agonist or an SGLT2 inhibitor with proven outcome is the class 1 indication now. It was earlier class 2A indication. So we have increased the use of SGLT2 inhibitors anyways. And in patients with diabetes and CKD, irrespective of ASCVD, use of an SGLT2 inhibitor is recommended to improve ASCVD risk and the cardiorenal outcomes. Patients with type 2 diabetes and heart failure with reduced ejection fraction, again SGLT2 inhibitor has a very proven role, and all these are class 1 indication. Yeah, in patients with heart failure and major depression, SSRIs, SNRIs and tricyclic antidepressants are not recommended as they worsen heart failure. And in patients with dialysis dependent CKD who are free from ASCVD, commencing a new statin is usually not recommended. If they are already on statin, we can continue, or if they have established ASCVD, yes, we can continue. But CKD and free of ASCVD, commencing a new statin is not recommended. Air pollution measures. Yeah, so for grade 1 hypertension, initially we used to start treatment straight away. Now what they recommend is treatment initiation is based on absolute CVD risk and estimated lifetime benefit, and if the presence of hypertension mediated organ damage is present. If it is not present with a low risk, you can have lifestyle modifications for a few months, and then if it still doesn't come down, then it is indicated. And in patients with type 2 diabetes, as we have seen, that this is a new change from the previous guidelines. Yeah, so the patient categories and associated cardiovascular risk. In patients without established ASCVD, less than 50 years, they are usually from low to high risk depending on additional factors. 50 to 69 will be low to very high risk, and patients more than 70 years again can be from low to high risk. CKD without diabetes or ASCVD are anyways high risk if it is a moderate CKD. If it is severe CKD, that is GFR less than 30 or eGFR 30 to 44 with ACR more than 30, they fall in very high risk, irrespective of diabetes or ASCVD. Patients with FH are high risk. Patients with diabetes but who are well controlled and short standing diabetes are at moderate risk without any evidence of target organ damage. Diabetes with ASCVD or target organ damage are at high risk. And patients with diabetes and established ASCVD with some evidence of target organ damage become very high risk. All these are risk factors for patients like apparently healthy people without ASCVD. So this is the score algorithm. What we see is these are the age groups. This is score OP, like for older people, and these algorithms are given based on the countries from which a particular person is coming. Like the European countries have been divided into low, moderate, high, and very high risk based on the mortality rates associated with ASCVD. So this is in low CVD risk population. What they consider is the non-HDL cholesterol. So that is total cholesterol minus HDL gives the non-HDL cholesterol. It basically gives the amount of ApoB containing lipoproteins. Here is the systolic BP, and this is the age. Women and men, smoker and non-smoker. So these are the factors which are considered for calculating the score 2. All this is available online in an app form. You can just enter the details and we'll get the risk of ASCVD. This is 10-year risk of fatal or non-fatal ASCVD. Again, this is for younger population. This is in moderate risk. This is high risk and very high risk. So these are the regions based on WHO CV cardiovascular mortality rates. These are the high risk, very high risk. This is high risk, right? So this is moderate, and but then India is nowhere mentioned because we don't have rates. But then a study of ethnicity, effect of ethnicity of Indian population was done, in which they showed that compared to UK, if we have to calculate the risk for Indian people, we have to multiply by 1.3 for Indian people. So whatever risk we get for a standard UK population, if we multiply it by 1.3 times, that will be the risk for the Indian people. So the categories based on score 2 and score 2 OP, that is for older population in apparently healthy people. Less than 50 years, if the risk is less than 2.5, it is low to moderate risk. 2.5 to 7.5 is high risk, and more than 7.5 is very high risk, apparently for all the age groups. So again, we can see that as the age increases, the high risk also, the percentage increases. Again, as we have seen, a stepwise approach for patients less than 50, 50 to 70, and more than 70. And patients with established ASCVD, smoking cessation, a systolic BP less than 140 to 130 if tolerated, LDL cholesterol more than 50% reduction, and less than 70, and antithrombotic therapy. We have to calculate the residual 10-year CVD risk, lifetime CVD risk, and the treatment benefit. Each intervention and the benefit obtained by reduction in LDL or smoking cessation, all these can be calculated by life CVD risk models, which are proposed by the ESC. All these models again are available on the ESC website. Yeah, so CVD estimation, just a quick recap. Less than 70 years, it is class 1 indication to estimate by score 2 algorithm, score 2 OP for more than 70 patients, and patients with established CVD or diabetes or moderate to severe CKD, genetic or lipid disorders or hypertension again are considered at high or very high risk, so they need treatment. Stress symptoms and psychosocial stressors modify CVD risk, so assessment of these stressors should be considered. Coronary artery calcium scoring is given class 2B indication, and the routine use of other potential modifiers like genetic scoring or circulatory urinary biomarkers or vascular tests other than coronary artery calcium or carotid ultrasound, they are not recommended, that is class 3. For physical activity, like for adults for all ages, they should strive to achieve at least 150 to 300 minutes a week of moderate intensity exercise or 75 to 150 minutes a week of vigorous intensity aerobic physical activity or an equivalent to reduce all-cause mortality. Adults who cannot perform even 150 minutes of moderate intensity workout should stay as much active as possible. We'll come to what is moderate and high intensity. And it is recommended to reduce the sedentary time. All these are class 1 indications. And in addition to aerobic or physical activity, at least 2 or more days a week of strength training and all is also recommended. So light activity is when the activity reaches to 1.1 to 2.9 METs, like walking less than 4.7 kilometers per hour or light household work. A moderate activity is 3 to 5.9 metabolic equivalents. Here, walking at moderate or brisk pace, 4.1 to 6.5 kilometers per hour, slow cycling, even golf, tennis doubles, ballroom dancing, and water aerobics. All these are moderate intensity activities. And vigorous intensities is when the metabolic equivalence reaches more than or equal to 6. Race walking, jogging or running, cycling more than 15 kilometers per hour, heavy gardening, swimming laps, and tennis singles. So all these are high intensity vigorous physical activities. So if it is vigorous, it is 75 to 150 minutes, and if it is moderate, it is 150 to 300 minutes a week. A healthy diet, a Mediterranean or similar diet with lower risk. It is recommended to replace saturated fats with as much as possible of unsaturated fats to lower the risk of CVD. Reduce the salt intake to less than 5 grams per day. To restrict sugar consumption, in particular sweetened sugars, to a maximum of 10% of energy intake. So less than 5 grams salt per day, 30 to 45 grams of fiber per day. Okay. So an estimate of percentage change in risk of coronary artery disease associated with isocaloric substitution of saturated fat with other types of fat or carbohydrate. So if not by not changing the total calorie intake, only if we replace the saturated fat by trans fat, the CVD risk increases a little, as we can see here. Sorry. It increases a little. If you replace it by MUFA, it reduces. PUFA, it reduces even further. And carbohydrates from whole grains, it reduces. So not only by calorie, but the type of calorie also it matters. Body weight reduction. Patients with mental disorders need intensified attention to support and improve adherence to lifestyle changes and drug treatment. Patients with mental disorders, evidence-based mental health care and interdisciplinary cooperative approach is recommended as class 1 indication. So very brief advice for smoking cessation is a proven 30-second clinical intervention where we ask for a smoking status, advise accordingly, and to act for by offering help. So advise, ask, advise, and act. We'll skip this. Yeah, so reduction in ASCVD, like reduction in LDL cholesterol. What we mean by moderate intensity statin is it reduces almost 30% of LDL cholesterol. High intensity statin will cause almost 50% reduction. High intensity statin plus ezetimibe will cause 65% reduction. Alone PCSK9 will cause almost 60% reduction. PCSK9 with high intensity statin 75, and with ezetimibe 85% reduction in LDL cholesterol. Will not put this. I'm short of time. I'll just finish what is important. Yeah. So definitions of hypertension: optimal is more than less than 120 and less than 80. Normal is 120 to 129. High normal is 130 to 139. So grade 1 hypertension starts after more than 140 millimeters of mercury systolic BP and 90 millimeters of diastolic BP. It is again come to this level. Grade 1, 2, 3. So all these for the medical officer friends, just for your quick revision. Patient should be seated comfortably in quiet environment for 5 minutes before BP measurement. 3 BP measurements should be recorded 1 to 2 minutes apart, and additional measurements if the first two readings differ by more than 10 millimeters of mercury. The bladder cuff should be standard sized and it should be positioned at the level of the heart and with the back and the arm of the patient supported to avoid muscle contraction and isometric exercise dependent increases in BP. If the patient is not supported, that can lead to a false effect of isometric exercise and it increases the BP. For a postural drop, measure BP 1 and 3 minutes after standing from seated position. Yeah, so it is recommended the BP should be classified as optimal, normal, high normal, and grades 1 to 3 according to COFES BP, and to evaluate for presence of hypertension mediated organ damage. For grade 1 hypertension, treatment initiation is based on absolute CVD risk estimation. Initially, a trial of lifestyle modification can be given, and for grades 2 hypertension and higher, drug treatment is recommended straight away. Just come to the treatment. Yeah. So the initial therapy is usually started with AC inhibitors or ARB with a CCB or a diuretic. So they recommended straight away upfront double dose therapy, except in patients with low grade 1 hypertension where the systolic BP is less than 150, or in very old or frail patients where whose age is more than 80 years. Apart from these cases, initially they recommend upfront dual drug therapy. If it doesn't respond, then you can add a third drug from the same group. And resistant hypertension, where you have the 3 groups of drugs with at least a diuretic, and if still the BP remains on higher side, you need to add spironolactone or other diuretic or alpha blocker or a beta blocker for the further treatment. Beta blockers can be added for patients who have additional indication like heart failure or post-MI or AF, or in patients who are planning pregnancy. Beta blocker is one of the recommended. Yeah, so recommendations for antithrombotic therapy: aspirin 75 to 100 milligram daily is recommended for secondary prevention. So patients who have established ASCVDs, aspirin is recommended. Clopidogrel as an alternative to aspirin in patients with aspirin intolerance is again class 1, it has to be done. Concomitant use of proton pump inhibitor is recommended in patients who are receiving antiplatelet therapy and who are at high risk of GI bleeding. Antiplatelet therapy is not recommended in individuals with low or moderate CV risk due to increased risk of major bleeding. So it is not recommended in low or moderate ASCVD risk who don't have an established ASCVD. Low dose colchicine is class 2B. For patients with previous MI or revascularization, aspirin lifelong is recommended. Again, if you have an evidence of CAD on imaging and you are in doubt of whether to start aspirin or not, again it is class 2B. It may be considered in high risk patients but not otherwise. DAPT after an MI is given for 12 months with a P2Y12 inhibitor and aspirin. For patients with coronary artery disease, AC inhibitors or ARB are recommended if the patient doesn't have any other contraindication, and if the patient has heart failure, hypertension or diabetes. And beta blockers are recommended as class 1 in patients with LV dysfunction or systolic dysfunction. I'll go into the details of this. I'm already For patients of CKD, treatment with AC inhibitors or ARB is class 1 in patients with diabetes, hypertension, and albuminuria. These should be titrated to the highest approved dose that is tolerated. So once CKD, like there is a wrong notion that once CKD we don't start AC inhibitors or ARB, but up to the highest dose tolerated, it should be started and given. And SGLT2 inhibitors with proven outcome benefit should be considered in patients with CKD for the renal benefit as well. Combination of AC and ARB both is not recommended.